Good evening and welcome to Arizona Illustrated for Wednesday, the 27th of June, 2012. I'm Tony Paniagua. We all know that life is full of surprises, as Dr. Eugene Sander and his family found out last year, just as he was getting ready to retire. Sander was recruited to lead the University of Arizona when former President Robert Shelton turned in his resignation. Now, Sander really hopes to call it quits in just a few weeks. Andrea Kelly has an interview about what the past year has been like and what's awaiting the new president.
Joining us in the studio now is University of Arizona President Gene Sander. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Andrea. Glad to be with you this morning.
Now, a year ago, you were looking at retirement. You'd spent 24 years at the University of Arizona. You were retiring as Dean of the College of Agriculture. Now you've been president of the university for a year because of an unforeseen circumstance with President Robert Shelton resigning a year ago. Can you summarize this past year as president?
Yeah, it was an interesting time. I was familiar with the university. That was one of the reasons I felt comfortable about taking this assignment, was that having been here for a fair length of time, I knew just about everybody at the university, and I knew a lot of people across the state based on my work as Dean of Agriculture. So that part of it I was familiar with. And the truth is that running a big college is not totally different than running a complete university. It's just, you know, a little bigger, a little faster, a little more involved. So I felt that probably I could make a difference here. And I think during this past year, my goal was essentially to get this university ready for new leadership. And I think we've been able to do that. I've had a lot of help, too. I should tell you, there's some it's a splendid administrative team we have over there. Jacqueline Mock, our provost, has done just amazing work. Leslie Tolbert, the list could go on, so I won't bother to say any more. But without the people in place who knew me and I knew them, and we worked together well, it wouldn't have been as possible to do the kind of things that we had to do in the short period of time that we had to do them. So it's been a good year. It really has. What
are some of those things that you say you had to do in the year? I know when you came in, you said you didn't just want to keep the seat warm. You actually wanted to continue some of the missions and the goals at the university.
Well, yeah. Of course, we needed to move ahead with things like working with the new UAHN board, which is newly appointed. I think that's going to make a big difference in terms of the overall success of our College of Medicine. Obviously, there were things to do to continue the College of Medicine work that was going on with the school up in Phoenix. One of the things that Dr. Mock and I worked very hard on, and that was to minimize the budget impacts that had occurred in the past several years. And then there was just the idea of letting everybody know across the state that we were still this state's land-grant university, that we were really serious about where we were going. And I think we managed to get a fair amount of that done. Once upon a time, I said I sure would like to be the president that would take us to the Rose Bowl. I didn't quite get that done, but maybe with a little bit of luck in the next couple of days, I'll be the president that presided over us winning the College World Series. And I think, wouldn't that be neat? I would be really excited about that.
Now, other than the unexpected challenge of being president for this past year, any other unexpected things that cropped up during your tenure as president for a year?
Not really. Nothing that we really didn't expect. You know, like I say, this was not a year of large things that happened. This was a year of incremental small things that occurred that sort of set us back on the track, I think, to be ready for new leadership to come along and take us to the next step. And I think that's the sort of thing that anybody who's in a leadership position hopes will be the case of the matter, that during your tenure, that the organization has either gained or maintained the strength that it had so that it's able to move forward without even sort of missing a beat as you go forward. University of Arizona is a great university. We are strong. We've got great people that work here. And so the idea that a university is president-centric, that just isn't so. That just isn't so. Don't get me wrong, great leadership counts. It really does. And we've got a great leader coming in, a very experienced woman who will be able to take us to the next step. But the point of the matter is this university is very solid. I think we're going to be able to continue forward. I know we will. Obviously, some issues that have to do with our budgets, how we go from one budget model to another budget model. Those are things that every university across the country, every public university is facing right now. And I think we're poised so that when Ann Weaver Hart gets here, well, we'll be able to continue right along without missing a beat.
And Ann Weaver Hart is coming in from Temple University,
That's
president
right.
of Temple.
That's right.
What has your transition process been like so far? Has there been much of a process?
Ann has had a rather difficult time in that Temple has not only recently appointed an interim president, and so consequently she's had a university to run in Philadelphia, and I've had one to run here in Tucson, Arizona. And we've been on the telephone a lot. We've had a chance to meet a time or two and just talk about things in general. Our philosophies are very much the same. So indeed, I think that many of the things that I'm deciding right now that are sort of things that obviously will carry over into her administration will not come as any surprise to her. And obviously with this new electronic communication that we have right now, that's very easy to take care of. It's just called push the button, copy Ann Weaver Hart, and she's very aware of what we're doing down here. And so I think that, and obviously I'm no more than a telephone or an email away if there's any specific questions that have to do with something specifically that I can answer for her. But again, I come back to the idea. This university is not president-centric. There's a great team of people over there. Matter of fact, that team of people know probably more about some of the details of the university than I know about. It's just the way that it essentially works. And so I think we're set in a way that when Ann gets here the first week in July, that we'll be in shape, ready to move forward.
We've got just about 30 seconds left. I want to ask you what challenges she may be facing when you leave and she comes in. What's on her plate? What are the big issues?
Well, I think the big issues will be the continuance of the changes that have to do with our medical school, how that relates to the new UAHN board, how that in turn relates to the enterprise that we have up in Phoenix. Getting to meet the people in Arizona, getting to know the legislature. In other words, she will have to do all the things that I had to do 25 years ago, but she's a very capable woman, and this surely will work out.
Great. Well, thank you for coming in a few times throughout the year, and we really appreciate hearing from you as president of the University of Arizona.
Andrea, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Millions of Mexicans will be going to the polls this Sunday, July 1st, to elect a new president to a 6-year term. Many Americans will also be paying close attention to the election, especially those who live in the border region and who have a personal stake in the outcome. This story comes to us from Peter O'Dowd at the Fronteras desk. It is a multimedia collaboration between different stations in the Southwest, including Arizona Public Media.
Standing on the edge of this unfinished railroad bridge outside of Brownsville, Texas, you can see across the Rio Grande into Mexico. It's the first new rail bridge to connect the countries in a century. And for businessman John Wood, it's a symbol of the way lives connect along the border.
So we have a tremendous investment in our trade and our commerce with Mexico. We are tied together. It's kind of like an umbilical cord.
Texas does more business with its southern neighbor than any other state, and that's a big reason why Wood says Mexico's upcoming election means as much to him as the battle between President Obama and Mitt Romney.
If Mexico isn't doing well, it doesn't seem to be a whole lot of difference what's happening in Washington.
Wood says Mexico's next president could help make the country well again. A more stable and calmer Mexico would mean more investment and more jobs in Brownsville. Some Americans along the border have a huge stake in Mexican politics. The Woodrow Wilson Center estimates the two countries traded a record $500 billion in goods and services last year. Investment fell off during the recession, but has steadily climbed back despite escalating drug violence. Analysts say business would strengthen even more if Mexico solved its cartel problem. That's absolutely right, according to Daniel Hong. He owns this general goods store a few yards from Brownsville's port. The vast majority of Hong's customers are from Mexico, and because of the violence in neighboring Matamoros just across the Rio Grande, his sales have dropped 60% in recent years.
Simply put, if there are random occurrences of gunfire outside of your house, that makes you less inclined to actually walk out your house and go about your daily duties.
That means fewer customers for Hong, so he has an opinion on the election. On a personal level, he supports the National Action Party, or the PAN, and the continuation of President Felipe Calderon's drug war offensive. But on a business level, he supports the PRI. The Institutional Revolutionary Party ran Mexico for 70 years and kept relative peace by turning a blind eye to the cartels.
If Mexico goes back to its old ways as far as quote-unquote corruption, government powers taking bribes in order to let the drugs flow freely. In a sense, that will cut the violence.
There's also a third option for president. Leftist candidate Andrés Manuel López Obrador has surged in the polls in recent weeks and is now in second place. It's clearly not just American border businesses with a stake in the elections. It's Mexican businesses, too. The city of Reynosa is just south of McAllen, Texas, and the neighborhood I'm in now used to be a destination for Americans, but the economy and the security situation in Mexico has done damage to local businesses. Just behind me was a nightclub called the Red Dragon, but it was torn down about a year ago. So the question is, will the upcoming presidential elections on July 1st do anything to help Mexico's problems and help bring American business back over the border? Here at the Mercado Zaragoza in Reynosa, violence and the economic crisis were the final straws for some businesses that were already struggling. This shop owner says business here, including his, used to depend almost completely on American shoppers. Now, Mexican shoppers are slowly trickling back, but business is nothing like it used to be. Hernandez says he feels none of the Mexican political parties has a serious plan for tackling the country's insecurity. He says he hopes the parties will take a clear stance on the issue, that they'll approach it with intelligence, courage, and heroism. That's what Mexico needs right now, he says, a hero. Back in the U.S., plenty of Americans are looking for a solution to Mexico's problems, too. They want a Mexican president who can return life along the border to the way it used to be.
Really, the election of the president is a referendum on who best can return Mexico to normal.
Zavaleta says normalcy is important to the psyche of the entire border community. It's not just businesses with ties to both countries, it's Americans like him who see Mexico as a second home, as a place where friends and families live.
We live with one foot in each country all the time. I know it can get better. We have to hope that this election will set it on the right track to getting better.
Zavaleta believes frontrunner Enrique Peña Nieto of the PRI has the best chance to bring the border back to normal. As an American, he can't vote July 1st, but he will be watching.
On Nova, for the next generation of telescopes, a new quest begins. Can we see the invisible?
10,000 galaxies in that single spot.
Go back further in time.
We can actually deduce things that happened in the first trillionth of a second.
Reveal mysterious forces shaping the cosmos.
Dark energy is one of the keys to understanding the fate of the universe.
Hunting the edge of space.
Tonight at 9 on PBS HD, Arizona Public Media.
We have been hearing about the economic crisis in Europe for months, and one of the nations that has been getting the most coverage is Greece. Earlier this month, residents there elected a new government that supports the European bailout and its controversial conditions. Tonight, we are joined by George Papadimitriou, a nuclear scientist at the University of Arizona. He is here to tell us more about some of the recent developments in his native country. George, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure, Tony.
So let's begin with this election that was held earlier this month. The Conservative New Democracy Party won. Tell us a little bit about that party compared to the other.
Exactly. So it's the New Democracy. It's a pro-bailout party, and they are governing the country in a coalition government together with the Pan-Hellenic Socialistic Party, which is also a pro-bailout party, and also a left-wing party, which is also a pro-bailout party. Most of the left-wing parties in Greece are against bailout, but this party is pro-bailout. So these three parties, they have the power from the people to lead the country to new prosperity and improve the economical situation.
So we were talking prior to this interview, the leftist party that got some of the votes here.
Yes.
It's not that they were against the bailout, but they wanted to renegotiate the conditions.
So mistakenly, most of the people thought that Syriza, so-called the left-wing party, was supporting the exit of the country from the European Union. That is not correct. What Syriza wanted was the renegotiation of the austerity measures that the memorandum is implying in the country.
And how have the recent events affected your family and friends. Let's begin with the family members first.
Well, my family was also affected. There were major budget cuts in their salaries. To speak about numbers, my father lost almost 10,000 euros in a year. So you can imagine that their lifestyle is completely changed. And my friends too, they have high education degrees, masters, PhDs, and they don't have a job that corresponds to their studies. They work several jobs, but not the thing that they studied.
There was a recent report that talked about the number of hours that Greeks work compared to other European nations. And actually they work a lot of hours, which is not the stereotype that we hear about
Exactly,
here.
exactly. So there is a stereotype, the moral economics that some Germans and French are trying to blame Greeks about, that the debt was accumulated because Greeks do not work. Well, it's the opposite. Greeks work a lot, but because of the austerity measures that the European countries are putting on Greece, the economy cannot stand strong. So we are in trouble.
And what happened in Greece also prior to this interview seems a lot like what happened here in the United States. People were getting easy loans, and it was easy for them to get financing.
That's the exact point. So in Europe, the banking and financial system was completely deregulated. So a country like Greece was borrowing money with a very low interest rate, and this has had an impact on an increase on salaries temporarily, and people were living beyond their means. The whole situation was not reflecting the true productivity of the country. And at some point, the bubble was blown. And now we're facing the problems that the bankers and the Greek politicians and European politicians brought the country to. And of course, people pay for this price now through austerity measures.
The average person typically pays the price,
Yes, the average person has to pay for the mistakes and the risks that they were taken from the Europeans and Greek politicians, and brought the country in this bad economical situation.
So now that this election is behind the Greek people, are people more optimistic about the future? What do you think is happening now?
Well, people from the ages 40 and older, they are more optimistic because they're believing that being a part of the European Union and trying to make the memorandum policies come true, that this will improve the economy. However, there are many people in younger ages that they are fed up with the austerity measures. The salaries are very low, they work many hours, and they don't see a light in the tunnel. So we will see how the future will be.
On a bright note, we just read an article about how more and more people are now booking vacations, and they're trying to go back to. What do you want to say about Greece, on the nice side, the tourism side?
That's the bright side, yeah, and we are very happy for that. So I read the article too. There are many people from Northern European countries that they are traveling to Greece this summer. It's a very beautiful country. People are very friendly. The hospitality is fantastic, and they have a great time. So they are all welcome to come to Greece and spend their summer, even people from the US.
How many years do you think it may be before Greece, quote, returns to normal?
Well, economists say that around 2030 or 2040, the country will be able to pay off the debt. But in order to pay off the debt, you should reform your own country, and the tax system should be improved too, and many things to achieve this thing.
And this is a big shift compared to the Olympics that were held there in 2006.
Exactly. Right? In 2004, there was a dream country. Nobody thought that we would be in that situation 8 years after that, and we hope it will get better.
Okay, well, George Papadimitriou, thanks for joining us. And
you're welcome. It was my pleasure.
It's a pleasure to talk to you about the situation in Greece. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
As stage productions go, the latest musical from Tucson's Fine Arts Youth Academy is an ambitious one. It's an adaptation of the classic opera Aida, with music and lyrics written by Elton John and Tom Rice. But even with a pop music sensibility, Verdi's original love story is a mature one for teenagers to perform. Next, Mark McLemore interviews the play's two leading actors about what audiences can expect.
And joining me now to talk about their roles in this production of Aida, we have the leads. Emily Garcia plays the title role of Aida in this production. Thank you for joining us, Emily.
Thanks for having me.
And her leading man is Isaiah Unruh. And tell us a little bit about the part that you'll be playing.
Well, I'm the son of a power-hungry man who wants to instate our family into the seat of the pharaoh, but I fall in love with the slave of the woman I am supposed to be engaged to.
And trouble ensues. So tell me about the singing in this play, Emily. Where does your singing voice come from? How did you first start singing?
I've been singing since I can even remember. That's my first love before I found theater, and I just love it. So.
And tell us how old you are and your experience in acting before this. What kind of experience have you had?
I'm 15. I had one lead before this, which was the Sour Kangaroo and Seussical. But this is my first major lead, so it's exciting.
When you heard about the play, which is based on an opera, how did you go about familiarizing yourself with the story and the character of Aida?
I kind of looked up the synopsis of the play and read what it was all about, and I also looked through all the music. So. Okay.
Well, Isaiah, we hear that you come to this production with quite a few other experiences under your belt, that you're actually kind of a seasoned actor for your age. How old are you?
I'm 17.
And what about musicals as opposed to stage performance, or rather plays? How do you like doing them both?
Well, both are really fun, but I find it really easy to get into the character and get into the acting when you're singing. You can add more emotion and passion into the song than you can do with just normal lines in a straight play.
I understand that you've been kind of working quickly on this production. Do you know how long it's been since auditions?
Well, we've had, I think, a total of a month, but we've been rehearsing from 1 to 5, Monday through Friday. So.
Well, we're going to see a scene coming up in a moment that you're going to perform from the play. Can you tell me what we need to know about this? I understand it sort of sets up the love triangle.
Yes. I'm having trouble because I'm in love with Amneris, who I'm engaged to, but then I fall in love with her slave, and that just causes a ton of problems.
Okay, well, you'll be joined by fellow student and actress Sarah Sanderson in this excerpt. The play will be performed Thursday and Friday night at the Saguaro High School Auditorium. That's at 7 p.m. both evenings, and that's at 545 North Camino Seco Road. Thanks so much for joining us.
Radames, this is my bedchamber. You know you can't. Well, you really shouldn't. Aida, leave.
No, stay. Pour the princess a glass of wine.
Are you trying to get me drunk, Radames? You know it's not necessary.
Is that your bed in there?
Silk-covered and fat with feathers.
Why don't you go in and I'll be in a moment.
Are you sure? We're to be married in a week.
Amneris, we've been engaged for 9 years.
Good point.
You think you can speak to me like that? Scold me like a shrew and then walk away? You forget that I could have you carried off to the copper mines.
And you forget that I'm her property now, not yours.
It doesn't matter. Because I know now that you were right. What?
I'm shocked. Even in enlightened Nubia, one never hears a man admit he's wrong.
Radames, I'm ready.
I'll be right in, princess. Aida, I was wrong. I have been selfish. If the pharaoh does not recover, Egypt's going to need a new leader. A strong leader. And I don't think that's Amneris.
Radames, come claim your kingdom.
You should go to her.
Were you a noblewoman before you were captured?
What does it matter now? There's nothing noble about me anymore.
You're wrong. You are noble and courageous. Very few of us dare to speak so honestly. And considering you're a slave...
Yes, we mustn't forget that I'm a slave.
I can't take back the past, Aida. But even if I could, I'm not sure that I'd want to. Aida...
Radames, You barged into my bedchamber, waging a full frontal attack, so to speak. And now you're stalling. Why?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
There's a buck naked princess lounging in her bed, calling your name. What exactly didn't you realize? Before our wedding night, why don't you pack up some of that dried monkey meat and have the royal cartographer draw you a map of the female body, Captain? Maybe then you'd be more inclined to come explore. Was it something I said? When we were children, we understood each other so well. Now he's a mystery to me.
In tonight's video postcard from photographer and editor John Dineyasi, we take you to El Dia de San Juan Festival 2012. Tucson residents held a celebration to welcome the annual summer rainy season. You can get more news and information on our website, azpm.org. To comment on any story you saw tonight, click on it online and go to the bottom. We can also be reached via Facebook and Twitter. Coming up tomorrow night, the Supreme Court of the United States is expected to make another major decision tomorrow, this time on the federal government's Affordable Health Care Act, which many opponents refer to as Obamacare. Also, we'll tell you about the Tucson Alliance of Dramatic Arts, which serves as a platform for emerging playwrights. I'm Tony Paniagua. From all of us at Arizona Public Media, have a great night.